More of Mariah Carey's memoir. The meaning of Mariah Carey. Let me try to think of what page I was up to. Here. I think I'll start from the part of top of page 65. I'll never forget her bizarre combined birthday and bridal shower at my mother's house. They put a little girl on the cake. A doll. Not one that looked like a grown woman, but a little baby doll with dark brown hair, like my sister's. The whole thing was pretty confusing to me. I was a little girl wondering, is there a baby? Is this a baby is coming party or a girl's going party? I couldn't tell if it was festive or a tragic occasion. My mother was pasty and pissed off. My teeny sister had swollen belly and she kept pointing and saying to me, there's a baby in here. Look at, there's a baby in here. And there was this weird cake with a little doll on it. How was a girl supposed to understand all this? And for so long, and so for a long time afterward, I always thought, oh, I guess at 50 is when people have kids and get married. It twisted my reality, but also focused me. I made a promise to myself that was not going to be me. My self-worth, or rather my sense of self-preservation, was born at the Bon Voyage bridal baby shower. I vowed I was not going to be promiscuous ever. The promise to lead a different life led me to become a very prudish person. I knew then, suddenly finding myself as an auntie before I was 8 years old. And that Allison's path was not going to be my life. Once the last slice of baby bridal cake was gone, my sister was gone too for several years. I will never understand what happened to her in the Philippines. But I knew that when she left my father's house, the remainder of her fragile childhood was left behind. After a few years in the Philippines, Allison returned to Long Island. I was about 12 years old and she was 20. Whatever happened to her over there on Island, or on Long Island, or in a back room somewhere had taken its toll on her. That super smart, beautiful girl with the dark curls who was my big sister hardened to a strange kind of absence. Something or many things must have happened to her and led her to barter her body for money and drugs, and she went on to do it for years. Back then, there was so much I didn't know, but there was also so much I should have never found out, or certainly not so young. The years between us might as well have been centuries. When Allison came back, she would drift from place to place and man to man, occasionally crashing with us at my mother's house between the many random relationships of men she collected and discarded. There was one woman, I guess he was about 60. He had half a head of hair, all which was gray. He was polite to my mother and would sometimes spill refrigerator food, so I guess she trusted him. One evening at the shack, Allison and my mother got into one of their memorable epic arguments, and for some unknown reason, Allison took me with her to this older gentleman's house. There was little of his house, or that night, that I remember because when we arrived, Allison sat me down on a light brown couch and handed me a little chalky ice blue pill with a crease carved in the middle and a glass of water. Here, take this, she said. Took it. Within minutes, I think I was in a heavy, scary darkness, pushed down to a path beneath sleep. I couldn't pull myself out. I didn't know how long I was knocked out. I felt like I was absorbed into the couch. The only reason I remembered the color, it was harrowing. At 12, I probably weighed 80 pounds soaking wet, and Allison gave me a whole volume. I don't know why my sister drugged me. I don't know why my mother let me go with her and this man. Perhaps they both wanted me out of their hair for the evening. Um, but but my life was in jeopardy in her hands. This may have been the first time that the year she could have seriously hurt me, but it certainly wasn't the last. Even by her 20s, Allison had already gotten married, given birth, gotten divorced, traveled thousands of miles away, and done dreadful things she could still be zany and spontaneous. The worst had not yet happened between us, so I was generally happy for the wild, starry visits she made to my mother's house. On her good days, she was a bright burst of energy. In her often bleak little dwelling, she seemed mature and had a hollow kind of glamour. She took a new interest in me as a preteen. Now, rather than a little girl, she paid attention to the obviously neglected outside of me. Swooping and correcting my disastrous attempts to make myself pretty, which to a 12-year-old means everything. After accidentally made my hair all kinds of shade of ugly orange, she took me to get a toner for my hair and made it one color. She told me a place to make my eyebrows beautiful. She took me shopping for my first ball. She and I would make earnest attempts at being normal. We were trying to be sisters, or so I thought. Even though I was young, I knew my sister was doing things that were not good. I mean, she had beeper, and not only drug dealers, rappers, and doctors, and only drug dealers, rappers, and doctors had beepers about them. She wore a nice manicure, bright pink nail polish, and nice decorated rhinestones. One shoe dropped me off in front of my mother's house. She dipped a sharp pink nail tip into some white crystal powder and held it to my face, saying, "Just try it. Take a little bite. Who cares?" I knew it was cocaine, scaring death. Thank God I didn't take it now. Play off comedy, probably. No thanks. Bye. See you later. I shuddered to think what could have happened if I walked into her trap and then in that house. I don't know what would have happened if I snorted cocaine right before seeing my mother, or ever in my life. It was all So to set up, Allison began bringing me around her friends. I started looking forward to our secret outings, though. For all the inner glamour and excitement, it was a very scary time in my life. Even though it was a long time ago, I still have nightmares about it. Allison did not choose how her life began, but I know she went through trauma too. It seemed as though she turned completely away from the light. One day she explained that it was time to go for me to meet her fabulous boyfriend John and the other girls she hung around with, while she's been telling stories about me as well. John was tall, was tall with green eyes, a light, fluffy outro, and a strong charisma. Christine, a 7-year-old runaway white girl, an older woman named Denise, older means she was maybe 28. And my sister, then in her early 20s, all lived in a house together with John. I looked up to Christine. She had a worldly air about her, yet she also seemed like a little girl. Her pale skin was sprinkled with tan freckles. She had medium blonde hair that fell softly to her shoulders, which was long and thin like the rest of her body. She could have been in a teen movie. Instead, she was there in a house. She was damaged. John's house was nicer, brighter, and cleaner than where I lived. They had a brand new couch. There was a television. I could watch whatever shows we wanted. I wanted daily snacks I could want. They had juicy juice. We couldn't afford any of that at home. A couple of times my sister came to where I lived and filled the refrigerator with the stuff I liked. That was part of the confusion I felt about our relationship. It was sometimes felt and looked like she cared, but her motives were always unclear. Was she being a nice big sister, or was she creating appetite for me for what I knew I could have all the time at John's house? It was manipulation masquerading as love. My sister told me I'd tell anyone I was going to the house when she lived with John, especially not my brother. She told me and my brother didn't like him because John had beaten him at badminton. Being so young and naive at the time, I believed that animosity was about a board game, not prostitution or drug operation. So there was no one to protect me. Dysfunctional families are ideal prey for abusers. They expose little ones vulnerable to being picked off. Now, of course, it's clear to me the funhouse was a whorehouse. I think my sister was kind of all the hustler town scout. By the time, I had no idea. After all, I was only a 12-year-old girl. Winning me over was so easy, literally like giving a kid a candy. But instead of candy, it was a heroin's brawl and a juicy juice box. John, my sister, and I would try to stay together. I remember one time we were going somewhere and the radio was playing a song he loved. He loudly screamed out the lyrics, and my sister and I giggled as strangle singing. They let me smoke cigarettes in the backseat of his car. The car felt so cool, and free. We would go to IHOP to get pancakes. He took me to Adventureland, and I played Pac-Man. In those moments, I always felt like someone's precious little sister. I was having all these fun adventures and thinking to myself, I finally knew what it was like to have a big sister who's in my life for good. And I was this easy breezy guy, John. That was what I'd been missing. I started to feel something resembling stability, a sense that it somehow looked a normal family was moving towards somewhere I belonged, but confusing and curious things quickly started happening. The day I got to my sister, the closer I got to my sister, the more I could see her broken parts. She had secretly gotten me my own phone line, which only she called on me. She would have these desperate bouts of drug-induced hysteria and call me late at night in the middle of the episode. I talked her off the ledge and tried to go back to sleep. Got up early in the morning to complete the 7th grade. No one at school knew that frequently just a few years earlier I had been subdued my suicidal big sister. Killing herself became a common threat that she shared with me in the wee hours when we went to school bust up. Then Nicole stopped for a while. So finally one day, Allison phoned and said she and John were coming to pick me up. I was inside thinking 3 of us together again, rotting, laughing, smoking, singing, and playing, with John shut up alone. We were driving, there was no lady bossing, no talking. It wasn't fun at all. I felt something was right. Finally, where's my sister? We're going to pick her up. John kept his eyes forward to me. Oh, she'll be here later. I kept sitting in front seat. I could see clearly the head gun resting against the thigh. John, his gun, and I made 2 stops, a card game and a driving movie. Then there's a look, a feel, and smell to rooms where grown men played in the dark. It was dark and cluttered. The air was dense with cheap booze, stale methanol, cigarette smoke, and unspoken perversions. There was no pretty things. It was hard for me to see and hard to breathe. I don't know exactly how many men were there. I don't know how many guns, how much money, or how many vile thoughts were at the table, but I do know it was all men. I sat in a corner of the sticky floor where I could see the door and held onto myself. I stayed still and kept my eyes down as the grown men jokes, grown men cussing, grown men hungers, grown men fears, and grown men fantasies flew above my head. Every now and then I catch a glimpse of one of them leering at me, or hearing a blue response to me in their conversation. I don't remember how I got in the car room's floor back into the front seat of the car. But I do remember feeling dirty from the sticky floor and men's filthy words. I knew my sister was not coming to clean me at this time. A painted bubble up in my throat. What am I I'm going, why am I my sister's boyfriend? Why did he take me around a disgusting man? Why can't we go to IHOP? Where's my sister? Where is she? I began to pray. Our next stop was a drive-in. Was almost immediately John put his arm around me. My body was stiff. My eyes were fixed on his gun. John put in closer and forced a hard kiss to me. I was nauseous and scared. I fell immobilized. In the corner of my eye, I noticed the elderly man pulled apart next to us, peering directly in John's car. The look on the man's face was a mix of resolution and recognition. Clearly saw an adult man, John, with his round outfit, and a little girl, small, a blonde coil as a girl. He saw the power blue car and John's light brown skin. He saw the details that even though, if he didn't detect my stress, he could see there was no place a little girl would ever want to be. John pulled out the drive-in slowly and drove me home in silence. I committed that man's face to memory. He's still there, fresh and frozen at a terrible time. I believe he was a prayer in person. A couple of days back in my room, the phone began ringing again, but this time I wouldn't pick it up. I resumed pretending I had regular 7th grade life. I would want to be a child again. Sometimes all the kids in my neighborhood would play chase tag at night. Most of them lived in a nice house with 2 parents and sisters and burdened them with thoughts of suicide and set them up with pimps. I wanted to blend into a typical summer night in every day in Long Island neighborhood, to play and clown around with other regular kids. I just went out around my drama through a game of chase. We often played in an area not far from the beach that had a kind of roundabout. We would hang out at a spot and sometimes build fire and make funny ways insane. One night we were deep in a group game of chase. Kids scattered around me and weaving. When I saw a car coming down the road, I immediately recognized it as John's car. It was creeping along ever so slowly as the driver was looking for someone or something. Someone. Panicking, I instantly ducked behind a house, trying to hide from whatever it was. There was no way I could tell my friends that I was it to a pimp with a gun. John eventually drove away, though I barely escaped, and the fear of men followed me for a very long time. When I got home, I unplugged the phone from the wall and disconnected from my trusting my big sister forever. I had nobody tell what happened. I couldn't tell my mother. I didn't have any real close friends. I never fit in. Even if I did, how could I explain to a kid from a regular household who ate dinner at 6 o'clock, went to bed at 9:30, and got in trouble when they didn't brush their teeth? Never be understand. Big sister's supposed to protect you, not pimp you out, so I didn't tell or trust anybody. But as a girl, you still want your big sister, and dandelions are still flowers when they bloom. One visit from my sister among all the visits and memories marked me the deepest. We tried to have tea. Tea was a thing in my mother's house, but it was anything but proper. There was no cherry whistling kettle. We boiled the water in a small beat-up saucepan on an old stove in a tiny flavorous, dingy, grime-colored kitchen. Matching cups and saucers were certainly nowhere to be found. We had mismatched cups and mugs, the kind found in a box marked free at Yortel's own island. English breakfast was a staple of tea flavor. We had a cup of a steaming tea bag. I had a thick ceramic drip-glazed mug that was chipped at the lip. I was holding a streaming fragrant black tea with both hands when the phone rang. "Oh, hello, Al," we heard our mother answer. It was our father. We were both a little shocked. My father rarely called my mother's house, and if he did, he was almost as skilled as about something. Alice and I exchanged a quick glance. What have we done now? Suddenly, my mother looked in my direction. I could tell they were disgusting me. I vaguely showed a no and mind refusal. Alice and I were just about to have tea. Maybe even a rare, light moment. And I knew I had to get serious when it come to talking to her father. And who knew what Allison might have done that I have yet to hear about. But Mother didn't cover for us. "Yes, she's here. Hold on," she said, holding a phone to and shaking maybe. Whatever normal sister moment Alice and I were trying to create was totally blown. I straightened my face, got up originally and took a phone. Then I shook and stretched the cord over to Alice and gestured for her to take it. "No, you take it," she said back. A slight back and forth commenced between us for a few moments. A game of who take the burn of talking father. It was almost fun. Finally, I put the receiver to my phone. "Hello, Father. I'm fine," I said, repressing the urge to let a little giggle. And I went through the mechanical niches of the conversation, seeing just wildly shaking her head and slicing her head across her throat, signaling for me not to. She was there, trying to carry on the conversation with her father. I made a silly face at her, doing all I could do not to break into laughter. My sister could be theatrical. In that moment, I found her extra hilarious. I thought we were playing a game. Eventually, I figured out it was her turn to talk. Talked seriously at her father, I tried to make her laugh. I said, "Guess what? Alice is here. Want to talk to her?" Laughing, I motioned at her to take the phone. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking down at her mug, steaming tea in her hand. When she lifted her face, her eyes were rabid, without a trace of other form or playfulness. Before I realized what was happening, she yelled no in a flash, dripped boiling hot tea on me. And there's more reading later.